Gaza Strip, Arabic Qiṭāʿ Ghazzah, Hebrew Reẓuʿat ʿAzza, territory occupying 140 square miles, 363 square kilometers, along the Mediterranean Sea just northeast of the Sinai Peninsula. The Gaza Strip is unusual in being a densely settled area not recognized as a de jure part of any extant country. The first accurate census, conducted in September 1967, showed a population smaller than had previously been estimated by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, or by Egypt, with nearly half of the people living in refugee camps. Pop. 2017, 1,899,291, 2023 EST. 2,226,544, Geography. The Gaza Strip is situated on a relatively flat coastal plain. Temperatures average in the mid-50s F, about 13 degrees Celsius, in the winter and in the upper 70s to low 80s F, mid to upper 20s C, in summer. The area receives an average of about 12 inches, 300 millimeters, of precipitation annually. Living conditions in the Gaza Strip are typically poor for a number of reasons: the region's dense and rapidly increasing population, the area's growth rate is one of the highest in the world, inadequate water, sewage, and electrical services, high rates of unemployment, and, from September 2007, sanctions imposed by Israel on the region. Agriculture is the economic mainstay of the employed population, and nearly 3/4 of the land area is under cultivation. The chief crop, citrus fruit, is raised on irrigated lands and is exported to Europe and other markets under arrangement with Israel. Truck crops, wheat, and olives also are produced. Light industry and handicrafts are centered in Gaza, the chief city of the area. In politically stable times, as much as 1/10 of the Palestinian population travels daily to Israel, where they are not allowed to stay overnight to work in menial jobs. Political tension and outbreaks of violence often led Israeli authorities to close the border for extended periods, putting many Palestinians out of work. As a result, a thriving smuggling industry emerged, based on a network of subterranean tunnels linking parts of the Gaza Strip with neighboring Egypt. The tunnels provided Palestinians with access to goods such as food, fuel, medicine, electronics, and weapons. History. Occupation. After rule by the Ottoman Empire ended there in World War I, 1914–18, the Gaza area became part of the League of Nations Mandate of Palestine under British rule. Before this mandate ended, the General Assembly of the United Nations, UN, in November 1947 accepted a plan for the Arab-Jewish partition of Palestine under which the town of Gaza and an area of surrounding territory were to be allotted to the Arabs. The British mandate ended on May 15, 1948, and on that same day the First Arab-Israeli War began. Egyptian forces soon entered the town of Gaza, which became the headquarters of the Egyptian Expeditionary Force in Palestine. As a result of heavy fighting in autumn 1948, the area around the town under Arab occupation was reduced to a strip of territory 25 miles, 40 kilometers, long and 4 to 5 miles, 6 to 8 kilometers, wide. This area became known as the Gaza Strip. Its boundaries were demarcated in the Egyptian-Israeli Armistice Agreement of February 24, 1949. The Gaza Strip was under Egyptian military rule from 1949 to 1956 and again from 1957 to 1967. From the beginning, the area's chief economic and social problem was the presence of large numbers of Palestinian Arab refugees living in extreme poverty in squalid camps. The Egyptian government did not consider the area part of Egypt and did not allow the refugees to become Egyptian citizens or to migrate to Egypt or to other Arab countries where they might be integrated into the population. Israel did not allow them to return to their former homes or to receive compensation for their loss of property. The refugees were maintained largely through the aid of the UNRWA. Many of the younger refugees became fedayeen, Arab guerrillas operating against Israel. Their attacks on Israel were one of the causes precipitating the Sinai Campaign during the Suez Crisis of 1956, when the Strip was taken by Israel. The Strip reverted to Egyptian control in 1957 following strong international pressures on Israel. Six-Day War in Gaza. Six-Day War in Gaza. In the Six-Day War of June 1967, the Gaza Strip was again taken by Israel, which occupied the region for the next quarter century. In December 1987, rioting and violent street clashes between Gaza's Palestinians and occupying Israeli troops marked the birth of an uprising that came to be known as the Intifada, Arabic Intifa, shaking off. In 1994, Israel began a phased transfer of governmental authority in the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority, PA, under the terms of the Oslo Accords that were signed by Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. The fledgling Palestinian government, led by Yasser Arafat, struggled with such problems as a stagnant economy, divided popular support, stalled negotiations with Israel over further troop withdrawals and territoriality, and the threat of terrorism from militant Muslim groups such as Islamic Jihad and Hamas, which refused to compromise with Israel and were intent on derailing the peace process. Beginning in late 2000, a breakdown in negotiations between the PA and Israel was followed by a further, more extreme outbreak of violence, termed the Second, or AC, Intifada. In an effort to end the fighting, Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon announced in late 2003 a plan that centered on withdrawing Israeli soldiers and settlers from the Gaza Strip, see Israel's disengagement from Gaza. In September 2005, Israel completed the pullout from the territory, and control of the Gaza Strip was transferred to the PA, although Israel continued to patrol its borders and airspace. Under Hamas's governance. In the 2006 PA parliamentary elections, Fatah, which had dominated Palestinian politics since its founding in the 1950s, suffered a decisive loss to Hamas, reflecting years of dissatisfaction with Fatah's governance, which was criticized as corrupt and inefficient. Hamas's victory prompted sanctions by Israel, the United States, and the European Union, each of which had placed the organization on its official list of terrorist groups. The Gaza Strip was the site of escalating violence between the competing groups, and a short-lived coalition government was ended in June 2007 after Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip and a Fatah-led emergency cabinet took control of the West Bank. Despite calls by PA President Mahmoud Abbas for Hamas to relinquish its position in the Gaza Strip, the territory remained under Hamas's control. Attempts at reconciliation with Fatah. A number of attempts were made to reconcile with the Fatah-led PA. An initial deal was reached in 2011 but did not bring about much change. A new deal was achieved in 2014, in which Hamas agreed to hand over administration of the Gaza Strip to the PA and recognize the prime ministership of Rami Hamdallah. As such, the Hamas government in the Gaza Strip resigned, including the prime minister, Ismail Haniyeh. The PA was not allowed to resume control of public institutions in the Gaza Strip until late 2017, however, after implementation of a new agreement. The PA failed to gain full governance in the area, though, and decided to cut funding to the Gaza Strip in 2018. As disagreements continued to escalate, the PA ceased operating the Rafah border crossing with Egypt in January 2019. Later that month, Hamdallah resigned, ending the unity government. Blockade of Gaza Strip. Ismail Haniyeh and Sheikh Hamad ibn Khalifa al-Thani. Ismail Haniyeh and Sheikh Hamad ibn Khalifa al-Thani. In autumn 2007, Israel declared the Gaza Strip under Hamas a hostile entity and approved a series of sanctions that included power cuts, heavily restricted imports, and border closures. In January 2008, facing sustained rocket assaults into its southern settlements, Israel broadened its sanctions, completely sealing its border with the Gaza Strip and temporarily preventing fuel imports. Later that month, after nearly a week of the intensified Israeli blockade, Hamas's forces demolished portions of the barrier along the Gaza Strip-Egypt border, closed from Hamas's mid-2007 takeover until 2011, opening gaps through which, according to some estimates, hundreds of thousands of Gazans passed into Egypt to purchase food, fuel, and goods unavailable under the blockade. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak temporarily permitted the breach to alleviate civilian hardship in Gaza before efforts could begin to restore the border.